Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series in which we discuss and briefly analyze the important news of the day. Let's have a look at today's main headlines. The Lok Sabha passed the Central Goods and Services Tax Second Amendment Bill 2023. The Government of India and the Asian Development Bank signed a $250 million loan for industrial corridor development in India. The Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework completes 1 year. A report titled A Green and Sustainable Growth Agenda for the Global Economy was recently released by the Niti Aayog. As per the Crime in India Report 2022, West Bengal tops acid attack cases for the third year in a row. World Health Organization officially recognizes Noma as a neglected tropical disease. Starting with today's first news, the Lok Sabha passed the Central Goods and Services Tax Second Amendment Bill 2023. The bill amends the Central Goods and Services Tax or CGST Act of 2017 to change the qualification criteria for the members of GST Appellate Tribunal, and it also raises the age limit of the President and members of the tribunal. Now, before proceeding to the bill, let's have a brief discussion about the CGST Act of 2017. The Act provides for the levy and collection of CGST on intra-state supply of goods and services. It also allows the central government to set up a GST Appellate Tribunal on the recommendation of the GST Council. The GST Appellate Tribunal is the second appellate authority within the GST framework for hearing appeals against the orders passed by the appellate authority under the CGST Act of 2017 and the state GST Acts. The tribunal consists of a president, a judicial member, and 2 technical members. Only a judge of a high court or a district judge or additional district judge having served for at least 10 years is eligible to be appointed as a judicial member. Coming back to the news, let's take a look at some of the major changes introduced by the bill. Firstly, the bill allows advocates with at least 10 years of experience to be appointed as a judicial member of the GST Appellate Tribunal, given that they have substantial experience in matters relating to indirect taxation. The minimum age to be appointed as a member or the president of the GST Appellate Tribunal will be 50 years. The bill also increases the age limit for the president of the tribunal from 67 to 70 years and for the members from 65 to 67 years. In the next news, the Government of India and the Asian Development Bank have signed a $250 million loan for industrial corridor development in India. The Asian Development Bank, headquartered in Manila, Philippines, is a multilateral financial institution that is committed to achieving a prosperous, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable Asia and Pacific. Coming back, the $250 million policy-based loan will support Industrial Corridor Development Sub-Program 2 to develop alternative financing solutions such as green finance for industrial cluster development and improve industrial workplace safety and integrate environment and climate change practices. This loan builds on Sub-Program 1 loan of $250 million, which was approved by the Asian Development Bank in October 2021 to strengthen policy frameworks for the National Industrial Corridor Program. The National Industrial Corridor Program aims to develop futuristic industrial cities in India that can compete with the best manufacturing and investment destinations in the world. The government has approved the development of 11 industrial corridors with 32 projects in 4 phases as part of this program. These corridors will be implemented through the National Industrial Corridor Development and Implementation Trust. Now the question is, what is the importance of building industrial corridors? Industrial corridors in a country offer effective integration between industry and infrastructure, leading to overall economic and social development. Talking about India, they can help India position itself as a strong player in the global value chain and also aid in enhancing India's competitiveness in manufacturing through the creation of quality infrastructure. Industrial corridors will also help in creating better jobs in India and contribute to the elevation of poverty in corridor states.
Moving on to the next news, The Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework completes a one-year anniversary. It is a significant milestone in the global efforts to address biodiversity challenges. Let's get into the key highlights and achievements of the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. The Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework was adopted at the Convention on Biological Diversity's 15th Conference of Parties, replacing the Aichi biodiversity targets, which had the time period between 2011 to 2020. It is important to note that the framework is legally non-binding in nature. If we talk about its key highlights, the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework outlines 4 overreaching goals for 2050, including halting human-induced species extinction, promoting the sustainable use of biodiversity, ensuring equitable sharing of benefits, and addressing the biodiversity finance gap of $700 billion per year. Additionally, the framework has set 23 global targets for 2030, such as conserving 30% of land, sea and inland waters, restoring 30% of degraded ecosystems, integrating biodiversity into policies, and halving the introduction of invasive species. Funding for these initiatives comes from the Global Biodiversity Framework Fund, a special trust fund established by the Global Environment Facility. Global Environment Facility was established at Rio Earth Summit 1992, and the World Bank serves as the Global Environment Facility trustee. Countries participating in these initiatives are required to monitor and report progress every 5 years or less, using a set of indicators to ensure accountability and transparency. Now let's take a moment to reflect on the progress made by Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework in its inaugural year. One notable achievement is the adoption of the Treaty on Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biodiversity beyond areas of national jurisdiction directly influenced by the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Before we conclude, let's revisit the Convention on Biological Diversity, the foundational framework underpinning the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. The Convention on Biological Diversity is an international legal instrument adopted in 1992 at the Rio Earth Summit and enforced in 1993, ratified by 196 nations, including India.
Moving on, a report titled A Green and Sustainable Growth Agenda for the Global Economy was recently released by the Niti Aayog. The report has emphasized on a reshaping global finance architecture for sustainable growth. So the question is why the global finance architecture needs to be reshaped. According to the report, the current global financial system is contributing to disparities in economic recovery between developed and developing regions. The global debt architecture is informal and inefficient, with many low-income countries in or nearing a debt crisis. Also, the report underlines that around $3 trillion are needed over the next decade to finance green growth. However, we are still lagging in the mobilization of private resources for the purpose. To overcome these issues, the report has made some important recommendations. Firstly, the structure of multilateral development banks can be reformed to improve capital mobilization for better implementation of projects and for making sustainable infrastructure an asset class. Further, multilateral creditor club can be established to manage debt sustainably in a transparent manner. Moreover, countries in the Global South need flexibility missions as they will provide them with the means to adapt and innovate in response to the impacts of climate change. Additionally, bilateral swap lines and IMF contingency lines can be expanded to make capital flows safer. Also, the allocation of special drawing rights should be rule-based and less discretionary. Some other long-term solutions presented by the report include creating resilience funds, promoting circular economies, joint technological development, enhancing green energy security, and transition partnerships.
In our next news, as per the Crime in India Report 2022, West Bengal tops acid attack cases for the third year in a row. The findings are part of the Crime in India Report 2022 released by the National Crime Records Bureau. The majority of victims are young girls, with many below at the age of 18. The 226th report of the Law Commission of India highlights that a significant number of these attacks are a result of rejected marriage proposals. In response to this alarming trend, the government has implemented several initiatives to prevent acid attacks. The Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 introduced sections 326A, voluntary causing grievous hurt by use of acid, and 326B, attempt to acid attack, in the Indian Penal Code, strengthening legal provisions against acid attacks. The Ministry of Home Affairs has issued crucial directives to all states on regulating acid sales. One key measure is the maintenance of a logbook, without which over-the-counter sales are prohibited. These directives fall under the Model Poisons Possession and Sales Rule 2013, governed by the Poisons Act 1919. The state government is now mandated to provide compensation under the Section 357A and ensure free treatment for acid attack victims in hospitals. Despite the stringent laws and government efforts, acid attacks continue to pose a severe challenge. The sale of acid remains poorly regulated by states, contributing to its easy availability. The conviction rate, including other incidents of harm, stands at a concerning 35.9%. The lack of uniformity in laws across different states and union territories adds complexity to combating acid attacks. In our next news, the World Health Organization officially recognizes Noma as a neglected tropical disease. This decision follows a recommendation from the Strategic and Technical Advisory Group for Neglected Tropical Diseases. The World Health Organization's recognition aims to raise global awareness, catalyze research efforts, stimulate funding, and enhance collaborative initiatives to control Noma through multi-sectoral and multi-pronged approaches. Now let's first briefly understand about Noma. Also known as Cancrum oris, Noma is a severe gangrenous disease that primarily affects children aged 2 to 6 years old. These children, often suffering from malnutrition, live in extreme poverty and have poor oral health. Notably, Africa is the most affected continent by Noma, emphasizing the urgent need for global attention and collaborative efforts to combat this devastating disease. Neglected tropical diseases form a diverse group of 20 conditions prevalent mainly in tropical areas. These diseases impact over 1 billion people living in impoverished communities worldwide. It is caused by various pathogens including viruses, bacteria, parasites, fungi, and toxins. Neglected tropical diseases encompass a range of illnesses such as dengue, chikungunya, rabies, leishmaniasis, leprosy, and lymphatic filariasis. Despite the challenges, there have been several initiatives taken in this regard. If we talk about global initiatives to tackle neglected tropical diseases, then there is the London Declaration and Kigali Declaration on Neglected Tropical Diseases that adopt targets to eradicate or control neglected tropical diseases by 2030. India has also taken some initiatives to tackle neglected tropical diseases, which includes the Accelerated Plan for the Elimination of Lymphatic Filariasis in 2018, the National Kala Azar Elimination Program, and the National Vector-Borne Disease Control Program. Now let's discuss about today's important place in news. After weeks of intense earthquake activity, a volcano has erupted on the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland. Iceland, with its capital Reykjavik, is a Nordic island country located in the North Atlantic Ocean. Iceland has been a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization since its foundation in 1949. Surrounded by the Greenland Sea in the north, Norwegian Sea in the east, Atlantic Ocean in the south and west, and Denmark Strait in northwest, separating it from Greenland. Now let's explore its geographical features. Its highest point is Vonadal's Peak and its longest river is Jorsa River. Iceland is located on the mid-Atlantic ridge, resulting in volcanic activity that reaches deep into the unstable interior of the Earth. As we conclude today's main news, let's take a look at some quick updates. Bhutan is planning to build an international city, Gyeongju Special Administrative Region, that will connect its border with Assam. The Government of India also agreed to build the first India-Bhutan railway line to Gyeongju, which would also connect with roadways and border trading and crossing points into Assam and West Bengal. The United States launched Operation Prosperity Guardian. It is a multinational security initiative under the structure of the existing Combined Task Force 153. It was launched in the backdrop of escalation in attack on commercial ships, such as the recent hijacking of a ship by Houthis. RBI tightens norms to prevent evergreening of loans via investments in alternative investment funds. Alternative investment funds means any fund established or incorporated in India, which is privately pooled investment vehicle which collects funds from sophisticated investors, whether Indian or foreign, for investing. Recently, the Marine Products Export Development Authority organized training module on value-added fish products. It works under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. It is a statutory body under the Marine Products Export Development Authority Act 1972. Terms of trade for Indian agriculture have recorded significant improvement in the last decade and a half. Terms of trade for farmers is the ratio between indices of prices received and indices of prices paid. NASA's Tropospheric Emissions Monitoring of Pollution satellite monitors air pollution hourly over North America. Tropospheric Emission Monitoring of Pollution satellite is NASA's first Earth observation satellite in geostationary orbit. It allows scientists to monitor air pollutants and their emission source from space more comprehensively than ever before. The World Health Organization warned of an epidemic of monkeypox in Democratic Republic of Congo, which could spread internationally. Monkeypox is a viral zoonotic illness caused by monkeypox virus, a species of genus Orthopox virus. First case of a person infected with JN1 variant of SARS-CoV-2 was reported in India. SARS-CoV-2 virus was responsible for COVID-19 pandemic. It is a subvariant of sublineage BA2.86, also known as Pirola, is an offshoot of widely circulating Omicron variant. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to the test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure you check out the links in the description below.